Hey, I'm Dr. John Azar-Dickens with Enforce Health, and I'm here with Coach Jay Stevenson with Go Go Running. Today we're going to talk about stress, emotional stress, really more related to exercise. So the question being, when I'm faced with emotional stress at work, problems, conflicts with other people, difficulties, it's going to maybe impact my willingness to want to exercise. And I'll feel fatigued and just think, I don't want to do that today. It's not worth it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how that impacts exercise consistency, but also maybe some ideas about how to get past that. As a topic Jay was interested in talking about.
Yeah, one of the things, I was actually talking with someone earlier today about creating like a routine and a habit of exercising, and there definitely, I think, is a point like with me and you where we were talking where we're gonna do it regardless, but how did we get to that point?
Right.
And what do we do when the day is really stressful? And you talked about just the emotional process that happens when you encounter some stress.
Yeah, well, it's going to be like developing any new behavioral pattern takes time. And for us and people like us who've exercised for 20, 30 years, who just go constantly and never miss, that's not something that just happened overnight. That's something that has to develop over time. And so first and foremost, if you've just started a program, keeping in mind that any new behavioral pattern takes time to develop. And you're vulnerable and more vulnerable at the beginning to lapses in those patterns. And so, for example, if you've been sedentary and now you want to exercise regularly and you've maintained a few weeks, just keep in mind that little things can cause a relapse back to sedentary. One of those being a very stressful day. And that's important to remember, because a lot of people get frustrated and think, I want to be like those people who work out all the time. But those people who work out all the time, it took a long time to get there.
Well, and like for me anyway, I don't know about you specifically, but I still have, after 22 years of exercising almost every day, I still have a battle that I have to go through, a process that I have to go through to get there when I am having a bad day or when I am stressed out,
right,
or when I'm tired. And I allow myself to just go through that process. And I allow myself to complain a little bit, but at the end of the day, I still do what I had planned to do instead of missing it. And you were saying, which I totally agree with earlier, that you end up feeling better. In those stressful days, sometimes you need the exercise even more.
Yeah. So if the day has been that stressful, it's actually a sign, an indication of how badly you need to go. But there's two things you just talked about. There's two coping styles or mechanisms. One for you is a routine. There's a ritual that you go through, and when you get into that ritual and that routine, it helps drive you toward exercise.
I'm ready to go.
For me, I have no ritual, no routine. My schedule is such that I'm lucky to work it in. I rush to do that, to get there, to do it. For me, when I feel resistant to it, when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, I just try to look past that stress and that fatigue and think about how good I'm going to feel when it's over. Because by doing it for so long, I've learned that whatever it is that's stressing me out now, I won't remember it. It won't be on my mind as prominently after I'm done exercising as it is now.
Yep.
And also know that my overall stress will be reduced and I'll have more energy, and then I'll feel better. So, self-talk, reminding yourself, hey, you know what, this is something that's good for me. It's something that's going to make me feel better. Even though I'm tired right now, I'm going to feel better later. I'm going to be disappointed in myself if I stop going because it's a goal I set, and if I don't meet that goal. So, kind of thinking through those things and talking to yourself in that way is useful. But yours is a little different. It sounds like it's more of a staying true to the routine.
Yeah, if I'd stick with my little things that I do before I exercise, I think it just gives me the time to process what you're talking about and realize, hey, this is something that I'm going to really enjoy after it's over with. And sometimes for me, it's the stress of the actual workout that seems hard.
Oh.
And maybe I don't know if I can do it or not. But once I step back, slow down a little bit, give myself 10, 15 minutes to mentally get it together, then do the workout, I feel much better, like you were saying. And another thing that I use a lot is I encourage myself just to start it. And I don't put a parameter sometimes on how long or how intense it has to be. And what happens is once I start it, I take the next step, and then I feel better, and then I end up doing a little bit longer of a workout than I even planned.
Right.
And it was all through that process of just getting myself out the door.
Well, I think it's important for all of us to keep in mind that emotional stress, stress at work, problems with other people, those are all triggers to cause us to relapse into sedentary lifestyle again. It's easier to go home and sit on the couch at the end of the day at work. It's just so much easier. But thinking through that and recognizing it's not going to benefit you in the long term. It's kind of like someone who's trying to quit drinking. They may not actually go to the bar and drink, but they might find themselves really, really thinking about doing something like that. And what we would say to them is, hey, that's one of the early signs that you're probably moving toward drinking again. You're building up. So that one day going home and laying on the couch, you think, oh, it's just one day. I'm tired. The next day, it's just the second day. And then it becomes, I haven't gone in 3 or 4 days, so might as well just give it up.
And then the next thing you know, 3 months have gone by.
Right. And there you are right back where you were again, frustrated, and you're saying, see, I just can't do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a matter of how you talk to yourself and how you prepare yourself for it. That helps you stay consistent with it. And then eventually over time, the more you do that, it becomes easier, I think. Wouldn't you say? I think for us, it's easier, people like us, to convince ourselves to go than it might be for somebody who's just starting out.
Yeah. I like to, it's definitely easier now for me than, 15 or 20 years ago. But I do always like to encourage other people that are going through the process of trying to figure out how to get a schedule together, that for me, and I know for you with your schedule, it still requires planning. It still requires, kind of the preemptive attitude of, okay, here's how everything's going to fit in during the week. On vacation, holidays are tough because families, stuff going on. And then with the swing schedules with work that you guys do and all that, you just never know. You can never stop planning.
And scheduling it.
You've
got to make it. You've got to schedule it. We've talked about that.
You've got to schedule
before.
It.
If you try to say, I'll just go whenever, whenever will never happen.
Right.
Because people will always find something for you to do that's not exercise.
And I like to say you've got to guard it. You've got your time.
You do.
And you've got to kind of guard it. And I even like to compare it to, you're kind of building like your own exercise machine. And every year you're adding little components to it and little dynamics to it. And you've got to make sure that nobody gets in and disrupts your routine and your time. So guarding that and making sure that it's there and it's not disruptive is really important.
Yeah. Well, so there's some things to think about and consider if you're just starting out and trying to think about stressors in the day and having those feelings. They're going to happen. You're going to have days where you just don't want to go. We all do. Yeah. We all have to battle through that, especially for me in the mornings when I have to work out in the mornings because I don't like to work out in the mornings.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge. So just keep in mind some of these things we've suggested to you, and hopefully they'll be effective for you.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.